Senua.
One of the things I love most about video games is their unique approach to storytelling. Unlike movies or books, they allow us to shape the narrative ourselves by making choices that directly affect how we absorb the narrative. We get to control the pacing, explore at our own speed, and uncover hidden layers of the story along the way. This interactivity creates a personal connection to the characters and events that simply can't be matched by other mediums. Take, for example, the difference between the Last of Us game and its TV adaptation. In the game, the relationship between Ellie and Joel is developed through small, seemingly insignificant moments during gameplay. Conversations and interactions that might appear trivial, but are crucial in building and reinforcing their bond. These subtle, interactive experiences create a depth of connection that a TV show, constrained by its format, often struggles to replicate. This is where video games truly shine, using their unique medium to tell stories in ways that are deeply engaging and emotionally resonant. When developers understand and properly leverage the medium, they can create something truly unique and special. In the case of Hellblade II, Ninja Theory mostly understood the assignment. The game excels in its atmospheric storytelling, bringing Senua's journey to life with jaw-dropping visuals, incredible voice acting, and a sound design that immerses you into the depths of her mind. The emotional weight of the narrative is felt in every cutscene and moment of interaction. However, despite the game's narrative brilliance, the gameplay falls short in some key areas. While it's easy to get lost in the experience, the actual mechanics feel somewhat limited, offering very little in terms of variety or challenge. The gameplay often feels like more of a conduit for the story rather than an integral part of the experience. But here's the question. Does the sheer power of its narrative and atmosphere make up for the lack of gameplay depth? Can the emotional pull of Hellblade 2 truly carry the weight of its more simplistic gameplay? Or does the game ultimately fall short in fully delivering on its potential? Senua's Saga Hellblade II is the highly anticipated sequel to Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice from 2017, developed by the UK-based studio Ninja Theory. Building on the successes of its predecessor, the game continues the journey of Senua, a Celtic warrior battling inner demons and navigating a world shaped by Norse mythology. Set sometime after the events of the first game, Hellblade 2 follows Senua after she intentionally allows herself to be captured by slavers, who then take her across the sea to their lands. This tribe of slavers is directly responsible for raiding Senua's village before the events of the first game, leading to the loss of her family and the traumatic experiences that defined her earlier journey. Determined to confront the people who caused her so much pain, Senua seeks vengeance while also struggling with her psychological and emotional scars. While the story might seem fairly straightforward at first glance, it's the delivery that truly sets it apart. The narrative dives deep into what's happening inside Senua's mind. Senua suffers from severe psychosis, and this is masterfully portrayed through the relentless voices in her head. These voices are an ever-present mix of different personas. Some seem to be fractured versions of herself, while others echo people from her past. As you play, these voices never let up. They whisper, argue, taunt, and sometimes guide you, creating a constant presence that feels both unsettling and intimate.
That scream, that voice. Something dark, Senua. You need to go up there. Don't let them see you come. I need to find out. Don't let the monsters find you. You can do this.
What makes this portrayal so impactful is the care and research that went into its creation. Ninja Theory consulted with licensed psychiatrists and mental health experts to ensure an accurate and sensitive depiction of psychosis. This collaboration informed how Senua's experiences, particularly the voices in her head, were represented, balancing artistic interpretation with a grounded understanding of the condition. By weaving these insights into the game, the developers were able to create a portrayal that is both respectful and authentic, giving players a glimpse into the inner struggles of someone living with psychosis. This effort is further enhanced by the game's use of binaural audio. For those unfamiliar, binaural audio is a recording technique that mimics the way we naturally hear sound. By using specialized microphones or software, it creates a 3D audio experience, making sounds feel like they're coming from specific directions. Behind you, beside you, or even right next to your ear. The Hellblade series isn't the first to use this technology. Games like Hunt Showdown have used binaural audio to heighten spatial awareness in competitive play. But in Hellblade II, this technique is taken to a whole new level. The voices in Senua's head don't just speak, they surround you, shift positions, and sometimes whisper so closely that it feels like they're breathing down your neck. This creates an incredibly immersive and deeply unsettling experience. It's not just about hearing the voices, it's about feeling them invade your space, mirroring the overwhelming presence of Senua's psychosis. This auditory design, combined with the insights from mental health professionals, pulls you into her reality, making you share her disorientation and fear. It's not just a feature, it's a storytelling tool that adds profound emotional weight to the game, setting it apart as a truly unique experience.
Go to them, Senua. They will tell us how to kill a giant. You know what that means, do you, Senua? No more sacrifice.
Melina Juergens, who plays Senua in Hellblade II, recently won the award for Best Performance at the Game Awards in 2024, marking her second win in this category. She previously received the same award in 2017 for her portrayal in the first Hellblade game. This makes her the first actress to win this award twice for the same character, highlighting the lasting impact of her work on the series and the industry as a whole. What makes her performance so extraordinary is the depth and authenticity she brings to Senua, a character grappling with severe psychosis. Despite not being a trained actress, her background is actually in video editing, Juergens has delivered one of the most emotionally raw and gripping portrayals in gaming. She captures Senua's vulnerability, rage, and determination in a way that feels profoundly human. Her vocal delivery doesn't stop at Senua's dialogue either. Juergens also performed most of the voices in Senua's head, blending multiple personas with nuanced shifts in tone, emotion, and cadence. This adds yet another layer of complexity to the auditory experience. Her dedication to her role goes beyond the voice acting as well. She studied movement and physical performance to authentically portray Senua's struggles and strength. Combined with Ninja Theory's advanced motion capture, her every expression and movement feels incredibly realistic. Her Game Awards win cements her as one of gaming's most talented performers, and her work in Hellblade II will be remembered as a key highlight of the game's success. The story in Hellblade 2 is more of a symbolic framework than a traditional narrative. Though it has its own progression, the true heart of the game lies in its exploration of Senua's mental state, with Norse mythology playing a major role in reinforcing the themes of personal struggle and recovery. The narrative often takes a backseat to the emotional experience, acting as a canvas for the game's symbolism and a player's individual interpretation. This is mirrored in the stunning visuals, where the world itself feels like a reflection of Senua's fractured psyche, shifting between serene beauty and unsettling darkness to amplify the game's emotional impact. While the narrative and visuals of Hellblade 2 are undeniably captivating, they alone can't carry the weight of the game. As much as the symbolic depth and fantastic graphics create an immersive experience, the gameplay leaves something to be desired. While it certainly aims to match the emotional tone set by the story, the mechanics themselves don't always feel as engaging, or in some cases, even present at all. This is a major letdown given the strength of the game's other elements. So let's dive into the gameplay and how it falls short of matching the game's lofty narrative and visual ambitions. Let's start with combat. At its core, the fights are structured as a series of one-on-one encounters. Your arsenal is limited to a small set of actions: a fast attack, heavy attack, block, dodge, and a time-slowing ability. While these mechanics are functional, they lack the depth or variety needed to keep encounters consistently engaging. There are only a handful of enemy types, and their attack patterns quickly become predictable, making most battles feel like an exercise in repetition rather than a test of skill or adaptability. Moreover, the decision to limit all fights to one-on-one encounters removes a layer of challenge that could have introduced tension and strategic complexity. At no point will you face multiple enemies simultaneously, a choice that diminishes the potential for chaotic, high-stakes moments where you must manage positioning and prioritize threats under pressure. This deliberate design choice creates combat that feels overly controlled and meticulously curated. While this stripped-down approach may align with the game's minimalist narrative focus, it comes at the cost of gameplay variety and player engagement. To its credit, the fights are cinematically stunning. Chaotic environments swirl around you as you clash with menacing foes, their designs intimidating and steeped in atmosphere. However, this visual spectacle cannot mask the simplicity at the heart of the system. Without meaningful mechanical evolution or the ability to experiment with new strategies, the combat becomes monotonous far too quickly, especially for players craving a more dynamic and rewarding gameplay experience. Outside of combat, the puzzles are pretty straightforward in a similar way. The puzzles prioritize atmosphere and immersion over complexity or variety. Most involve environmental observation, where you align shapes or symbols into the landscape to progress. While these moments are undeniably beautiful, drawing you into the eerie, otherworldly environments, they rarely challenge your problem-solving skills. The puzzles are less about intellectual engagement and more about soaking in the mood of the world, which can feel satisfying at first, but becomes repetitive as the game progresses. Unfortunately, the lack of variety weighs pretty heavy on the experience. Once you've solved a handful of these alignment puzzles, they all start to blur together, offering little in the way of new mechanics or escalating complexity. The game never asks you to think outside the box or combine elements in creative ways, which makes the puzzles feel more like thematic set pieces than actual gameplay challenges. To the game's credit, these sequences are seamlessly integrated into the narrative, using the puzzles as a way to reflect Senua's fragmented perception of reality. The way the landscape twists, warps, and transforms around you is mesmerizing, further immersing you in her mental state. The game also rewards exploration in subtle ways, particularly through side paths that offer glimpses of deeper stories. These paths often reveal fragments of Norse mythology told through disembodied voices. Discovering these hidden narratives can feel rewarding, adding texture to the world and providing moments of quiet reflection amidst the intensity of the main story. They deepen the lore and make the world feel richer. However, despite this narrative alignment, the simplicity of the puzzles often leaves you wanting more. More challenge, more variety, and more opportunities to engage with the world on a deeper, more interactive level. So we've covered the mediocre puzzles and simplistic curated combat sequences. But what else does the game offer? The answer is, unfortunately, not much. There's no character progression, no items to collect, no platforming, no decision making, and no stealth mechanics to add variety. Additionally, the absence of a HUD, no health bar, or stamina system of any type further limits the combat's depth. While this choice enhances the cinematic immersion, it strips away important gameplay feedback. The game doesn't necessarily need all of these elements to succeed, and it's clear that developers chose to prioritize cinematic intensity over gameplay depth. However, this approach makes the experience feel more like an interactive movie than a fully realized video game. The developers have even stripped many of the most minor interactions from the player. For example, early in the game, Senua finds herself outside of a dangerous sacrificial ceremony where she must rescue a character. After a brief cutscene, it becomes clear that the next objective is to sneak around and untie this character. As the cutscene ends, Senua is automatically crouching, ready to sneak. This is curious, though, because there isn't a crouch control available to the player. The lack of a crouch button is just one example of how the game takes away basic player inputs, which are core to interacting with the environment. If my goal is to sneak, I should be given the necessary inputs to do so and be punished for failing to use them correctly. Instead, the game removes the option for active input and handles it for you, pushing players into a passive role. Additionally, the enemies Senua is meant to sneak past don't pose any real threat. They don't actively pursue Senua, and there are no consequences if she's spotted. Rather, they simply appear to heighten the tension of the moment without offering meaningful engagement. This isn't an isolated incident either. There are chase sequences where you must run, but the game mostly controls Senua on its own, making it feel less like a chase and more like a scripted event. Similarly, there are climbing or crawling segments where you're simply required to press forward whenever Senua stops. This design choice reinforces the sense that the game is more of a scripted cinematic experience than a fully interactive game. At its core, a video game is supposed to present a problem for the player to solve, whether it's a reflexive challenge or something requiring more analytical thought. The player is then given a set of inputs or mechanics to address that problem. This forms the foundation of a gameplay loop. However, by removing even the most basic interactive elements, Hellblade II significantly reduces player agency, causing it to lose much of what makes the player feel engaged and in control, leaving the experience feeling passive.
Trying to take you. You're preying on your fear. Don't let them.
At the end of the day, assigning a numerical score to Hellblade 2 feels unusually difficult. On one hand, the gameplay is undeniably lackluster. The repetitive combat and simplistic puzzles that fail to engage or challenge, and the lack of meaningful player agency and limited interactivity diminish the overall experience. However, on the other hand, the storytelling and innovation in Hellblade 2 are remarkable. The way it blends narrative and atmosphere using the medium's unique ability to immerse the player in Senua's mental and emotional journey is something few games manage to pull off so effectively. The stunning visuals, sound design, and psychological depth are truly groundbreaking for the medium. The game's 7-hour length is a key factor in its favor. It's short enough to avoid wearing the player down, especially considering the shortcomings in gameplay. This brevity allows it to focus on its emotional journey without overstaying its welcome, making it an experience that's impactful without feeling exhausting. So while I heavily criticize Hellblade 2, I simultaneously find myself recommending the game. Despite its lackluster gameplay, the narrative and thematic depth make it worth experiencing. Hellblade 2 stands as a testament to how video games can delve into profound psychological and emotional themes, demonstrating that there's more to the medium than just traditional gameplay systems. If you value innovative storytelling and cinematic presentation, you'll likely find Hellblade 2 to be a compelling journey that has pushed the boundaries of how stories can be told in video games. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to support the channel. And until next time, cheers.